Hello and welcome everyone, and thank you for your interest, and thank you for taking the time to join us here today, this very sunny day in Luxembourg. So my name is Maria Lundqvist and I'm a financial advisor at the Innovation Finance Advisory Team at the European Investment Bank. So the European Investment Bank, so we are the lending arm of the European Union, and we are the biggest multilateral financial institution in the world and one of the largest providers of climate finance. So in fact, we are the EU climate bank. And the EIB group consists both of the European Investment Bank and, on the other hand, the European Investment Fund, our subsidiary and our equity arm. And innovation is core in what we do. And not only do we finance innovation, but we also innovate in-house. So we are true believers in this positive power of especially new emerging technologies, which you will see today. Because today I have the very pleasure to welcome you to this EIB Group workshop at this very prestigious VivaTech event, where we will discuss artificial intelligence and blockchain from three different but crucially interlinked perspectives. So first of all, from a market intelligence point of view, because today we are also at a very timely moment, because last week we released a new EIB European Commission joint report, a study on AI and blockchain. So this you will hear about in a minute, but then we will also discuss how we really support on the ground with our various financial instruments, and also that we, as the European Investment Bank, we are not only understanding the needs of the sectors, we are not only supporting the development and deployment of these technologies, but we are also applying them in-house. Because in fact, we are at the forefront when it comes to the digitalization on the capital market side. And you may have heard of our recent blockchain bond. So indeed, we are not only talking about these technologies, but we are also really believing in them in all these aspects. And that said, so the climate crisis, aging and growing population, limited resources, it all forces us to transform the way we live, the way we learn, work, and produce. And innovation and technology are crucial to make this transformation happen. And AI and blockchain are clearly two of the most transformative and disruptive technologies of our times. And with sustainability and the responsible, ethical, and human-centric approach in mind, these technologies can really pave new and efficient ways and drive technological solutions to make our societies more inclusive, more sustainable, and more green. So if we want Europe to stay competitive and really to achieve all these green and digital ambitions, we really need to increase our joint efforts and boost investments both for AI and blockchain. And of course, we need to do this while keeping our European values. So with the EIB group, the EU countries have a strong partner to scale up the development and the data-driven solutions to really bring excellence in research, to make our market flourish, to make our companies grow, and ultimately make a stronger, more competitive, more inclusive Europe. But without any further ado, and really to kickstart this workshop, I will invite Shiva Dustar, who is the head of our Innovation Finance Advisory Team at the European Investment Bank, to give you some exclusive insights into the key findings and recommendations of this recently launched AI and blockchain report. So, Shiva, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Maria. And it's quite exciting to be at VivaTech today. I wish we were in person. Unfortunately, it is still virtual, but I really wish you a very exciting and fruitful experience. So as Maria was saying, you know, I'm representing the innovation finance advisory side of the bank. And this is actually important for those of you who don't know that the bank also advises innovative companies and governments to find the right innovation financing solutions. So please do reach out to us if you have not yet heard of us. The other thing is we also gather market intelligence, and we do so across many different sectors, both on the green and digital and anything in between, really to better understand whether our financial instruments are fit for purpose and how we can ensure that the companies in Europe are best placed and have the right financing solutions at their disposal. So the latest of these studies, actually, you will see here, is our study on AI and blockchain and the future of Europe. You have the QR code, so please feel free to download it and look it up. We would love to hear from you, and also make sure that we, with your help, we actually make the most out of it. So let me tell you, and the next slide, please, let me tell you a bit about what the findings are of the study. If you can perhaps remember few figures, because those really will tell you the whole story. Total investments in AI blockchain technologies annually, globally, are 25 billion euros, roughly. Europe's share is unfortunately only 7%, or 1.75 billion. The rest, as you can imagine, 16% the US, 4% China, and both growing. So for Europe, we are basically underinvesting annually by 10 billion. That's the gap. That's the investment gap. There is, however, so much talent, so much scientific, also a research base in our universities, and not the least, and I think VivaTech is a great example, there are so many startups and companies that are actually developing these technologies in Europe. So clearly we have to do, and we only, the only way forward is to really do better than what we have done. And therefore our study is very much, as you can see, showing that on the supply side of financing, we don't have yet the volume, we don't yet perhaps have all the right specialist investors, and perhaps also still a risk perception that leads to therefore limited appetite, because not everybody understands the use cases and the immense potential of these transformative technologies. On the supply, on the demand side for the financing, we nevertheless have, despite the great potential, we are under-investing in our R&D, and that is both at the public and at the private level. And there is perhaps also not this joined up coherent regulation that will give us this additional boost. And then finally, when it comes to both the market infrastructure and the innovation ecosystem, it is fragmented. It is not necessarily bringing everybody together. So what can we do about it? Next slide, please. What we are proposing that the EIB group, and this is now our bank and our subsidiary, the European Investment Fund, that we basically really, together with the European Commission, take a very dedicated focus. And as you will see on this slide, looking at the development of these technologies, at the deployment of these technologies, and very importantly, also at the innovation ecosystem. So for the development, what we really are proposing here, and you will hear from our colleagues, both at the EIB and the EIF, to make an extra dedicated effort, because we have the instruments. It's a matter of now mobilizing through our intervention the private capital to really help these companies with that additional scale-up capital. Our study shows that equity is particularly important still in the phases of the companies, and most of it at this stage still for AI versus blockchain. However, the dynamics of these technologies may change that, and indeed we should really make sure that the financing is available for all of these technologies. On the deployment side, this is for the companies to really deploy these technologies. We need to make sure that both with the public and the private sector, we are very much helping companies to have the right financing so that they actually deploy these technologies, become more competitive. And then finally, on the innovation ecosystem, which is still, sadly, even though we have one single EU market, so to speak, it is fragmented. We need to join it up better. We need to bring the scientists and the financiers closer together. We need to bring the investors from the various jurisdictions and across the various stages closer to the companies, and making sure that you all know who to turn to when you need your next financing round. So with this, I stop and pass the floor back to Maria. Thank you very much.
Wow, Shiva, that was amazing. Yeah, and as the EU bank, the EIB group, of course, we stand ready to support this now the gap that we see of 10 billion. But in fact, we are already doing a lot. So on the one hand, yes, we can scale up what we do, but now I will let Christian Antocci, who's a loan officer at the EIB, working in particularly on growth finance and the venture debt type of financing, to let us know a little bit how you support AI and blockchain from your point of view. Christian, please.
Yes, thank you, Maria. So maybe as a brief introduction, my name is Christian Antocci, and I'm in EIB's venture debt team, working actually directly with the companies that we finance. And I'll start with a short background about venture debt, which is the main instrument that we use to finance this type of companies. So around 6 years ago, we launched this program, which was born out of an actual market need. We saw at that moment a gap at the level of financing innovation. And this led to this launching of this instrument that provides long-term financing at the venture stage, but at the same time, it has a smaller impact on the cap table of these companies. With this, we are trying to actually spot and finance the next European tech champions and ultimately build a strong local European tech ecosystem. Under venture debt, we are covering most of the tech sectors, such as biotech, cybersecurity, high-tech engineering, robotics, automation, and so on. So the venture debt program was actually not born with artificial intelligence in mind, but it had instead a broader tech focus. Given this focus, nevertheless, it was natural that a significant part of the portfolio went into AI. At the beginning, so a few years ago when we started this, AI used to be a thing in itself. So you'd hear companies saying that, yeah, we developed this AI tool which can be used for this or for that. But now we do not see AI as a sector anymore, but more as a source of innovation that can reach almost all the sectors. So instead, now you can hear companies saying, for example, yeah, we developed this robot, and by the way, to solve this problem of navigation or visual recognition, we use AI. So under this program, we have spoken to thousands of European tech startups, and we ended up financing so far more than 140 companies. And while financing these companies, we actually learned that the business model of AI is actually very well suited for venture debt financing. Because this business model is sometimes akin to a service business model. You have a lot of human intervention at the beginning and customization for a few years in the initial stages, with a total high initial spending and without any meaningful revenues over the short and medium term. Of course, you could argue that coding AI is actually very accessible and inexpensive nowadays, which is actually true, especially for edge devices. But on the other side, bringing solutions to the market that solve bigger problems, and we all know of the notorious case of the autonomous driving, how much money was spent there and is still being spent, and without actually autonomous driving coming to the market. Well, that takes years of collecting data, training the models, and in the end, fine-tuning the algorithms. And for this, you need lots of patient finance. And this is what venture debt actually does. And maybe to touch upon what we'll do in the future, we are aware, therefore, of the impact that these technologies can have in improving our lives in the end. So in terms of direct finance that the EIB provides directly to these companies, we actually plan to increase our support for AI startups. So for this purpose, we plan to launch dedicated financing facilities that can take such risks. Moreover, we are trying to cover more of the market by partnering. So last year, for example, we launched the AI co-investment facility, where we partnered with the European Investment Fund and indirectly with the private VC funds investing in AI. But on this, maybe I'll let David describe it in more details. So thank you from my side. And now, David, maybe you can say a few words about the co-investment facility.
Perfect. Thank you, Christian. Thanks, everyone. And I'm really happy to join this workshop for this nice VivaTech event. Just as a brief introduction, my name is David Dana, and I'm working at EIF, indeed, so the subsidiary of EIB, where I am heading a team investing into VC funds across Europe when it comes specifically to technology strategies. So very much aligned with notably AI and blockchain. As you know, I think most of the people attending that type of events know a bit about us. We are very active in financing VC funds across Europe. We are the largest LP in Europe, investing significantly, on average 1.5 billion euros every year into VC funds. When it comes specifically to AI and blockchain, we, as you know, are investing from various sources of capital, and some of them have been fine-tuned over time to respond to market demands and also to address what seems to be strategic for the EU or in the coming years and decades. And indeed, AI and blockchain have been identified as such. And I will start with two programs that we have been deployed for once, and that the other one is currently being deployed. Starting with the one that Christian mentioned, which is this AI co-investment facility. This is a 150 million euros program that has been launched at the end of 2020, which is now up and running, which is designed to invest alongside VC funds that we have backed as the EIF into companies active in the AI segment. And by AI, it means that companies which are either investing a lot in research or development, or which are patenting a lot of IPs around that, or active in the sector. We have a specific definition in the mandate, but basically what our objective is with that is to support companies which need financing to continue growing and getting better chances to become global leaders. So more specifically about this facility, this is a 150 million euro programs with an investment period of 4 years, which can be extended to 5. Our intention is to build a balanced and diversified portfolio of 20 to 25 companies across Europe and what we call participating countries, which includes a number of countries such as Switzerland, Norway, or Israel. And the purpose here is to join forces with VC funds that we've backed, which are investing in a new financing round of such companies. And we would then come and have additional capital to secure the rounds and help the companies. Technically speaking, it would be set up through a special purpose vehicle, so an SPV that will have to be managed by the fund that we backed, the manager of the fund that we backed. And this is something which seems already to be quite attractive to a number of companies. We already are in contact with a few of them, with one hopefully being announced pretty soon. We hope that if we could announce it today, but it's still in the very last and final stages of a legal negotiation. Hopefully it will be announced pretty soon. And this is open for companies active in AI, but as we all know, a number also of companies active in the blockchain space have a strong AI component. So this is something that we also consider. The second program I was referring to is something related to the financing programs that we receive and that we are managing and investing on behalf of the European Commission. As you may know, the one which ended up at the end of 2020 was called Horizon 2020, which had 2 windows of financing, one of them being called InnovFin. And under this InnovFin window specifically, we had a 100 million euro program, pilot program for blockchain and or AI. And here, what we've done because we have invested all of this amount, we have selected a number of managers and a few companies active in one or both of these segments. So at the end, we will have approximately 15 underlying assets, 1 co-investment in a company, and 14 fund investments. Typically, we have selected quite a range of VC funds, some of them being fully dedicated either to AI or to blockchain, and also a bit more VC funds with a more generalist strategy, but with a particular focus on one or the other of these segments. And the way it works is that when we invest €1 from this facility, from this pilot program into a fund, there is a legally binding commitment to invest twice this amount into a company responding to the definition of AI and or blockchain. So we've built a portfolio which is quite well diversified, with funds being based in Luxembourg, Finland, France, Greece, so also in Central and Eastern Europe, so quite well diversified. We have been quite successful with that because indeed, when there's a pilot program available, it also helps identifying and sourcing new initiatives. So we have been tracking what has been happening in Europe. Again, we received maybe more, and the program has been a bit more allocated to AI because this is more mature than blockchain. We should be announcing pretty soon the very first fully focused and dedicated blockchain fund that we backed with this program, notably, but not only, with other sources as well. And all in all, we hope that with the great successes we have faced already with those programs, it will continue helping us securing resources for those markets and helping the European markets developing well. And with this, I give the floor back to Maria.
Thank you very much, both Christian and David. And okay, so now we have gained a little bit of insight both into the particularities of the market, but also how we support it from the EIB side, and mentioned also in the beginning that we are also innovating in-house. So please, Xavier, can you let us know a little bit more on the recent launch of the blockchain bond from the EIB side? Please, the floor is yours.
Okay, absolutely. Thank you, Maria. So, the capital market department at EIB has always been at the forefront of market developments in many topics, such as the green bond, where the EIB basically created most of the standards when it comes to the green bond market, or when it comes to the risk-free rate. And it's no different when it came to blockchain. We knew that we had to do something that could send the trend for the future with the blockchain technology, because we strongly believe that the disruption potential of the blockchain technology is there. So certainly as an issuer, we had to do everything we can to be present in that segment and gather the knowledge we could, while offering also solutions to maybe less sophisticated issuers. So in that context, we have decided to launch a bond on the blockchain, and we wanted to make no compromises, in the sense that it had to be a fully fledged EIB bond. We didn't want to have some sort of experiment. There were a few experiments done in the markets before, but to us, they were very incomplete. If you want, it's very much like someone was building a motor in his corner, someone was designing a driving wheel, someone was designing a braking system. Well, we decided to build a car, okay? And we wanted to park that car in front of the investors so that they could see what exactly it meant, because there were a lot of discussions as to how blockchain could change financial markets. But we wanted something very concrete, very practical, but as complete as possible. So we didn't want to make any compromise. So on that, we wanted some key elements. For us, it was multi-dealers, okay? Because all the transactions that had been done up to that point were lead managed by only one dealer, which makes things significantly easier, okay? Because while dealers would add resources, they would add also the complexities of working with one another, all the intellectual property aspects when it comes to designing and managing a blockchain platform. And I have to say that the obstacles are way more important than the resources that they would add, okay? And then we wanted to have the bond on the blockchain and the cash on the blockchain. Having the bond on the blockchain is relatively straightforward. But I think the key aspects and one of the main questions for capital market in the future will be what sort of representation of cash do you have on the blockchain? And in a nutshell, you have three options, basically. The cash can be provided by the central bank. It's what we call CBDC, so central bank digital currency. You can have an existing cryptocurrency like Bitcoin, Ether, or you can have some stable coins, okay? Or it can be private stable coins like USDC, or also private coins, but more operated by a dealer. So still part of the current economic system. There is like a very indirect link with central banks, okay? But for us, clearly on top of that pyramid was CBDC, okay? Because while we wanted to change the world in terms of the world of finance, we wanted very much to keep the world where it was, okay? So in terms of the design, it meant that if we could involve some central banks, we had to do that because we don't want to replace central banks. We want very much to keep the central banks as the main actor of the creation of money, okay? And also we wanted to keep the broker-dealer models because very often people say that blockchain can be used to disintermediate, and in that situation, certainly EIB could have been connected directly with the investors, but for a lot of reasons, legal reasons, compliance, IML reasons, we are very happy to keep the dealers at the center stage, okay? So fortunately, we have managed to secure a partnership with Banque de France, where they provided the CBDC component for the bond. So it's the first public transaction with a CBDC component. Multi-dealer, the bond is on the blockchain as well. There was no CSD because we still wanted to have some element of disintermediation. So also for us, it was important to show that for this transaction, everything had to happen on the blockchain. So there was no copying on the blockchain, something that would be settled through normal mechanism. It was blockchain or nothing, okay? And maybe finally, we wanted really to design a plug and play approach because the risk is to lock the solution behind a technological wall. And we wanted investors, even if they have no knowledge experience, to be able to buy and participate to that transaction. So that's why all the technological developments have been outsourced to our dealers so that other smaller issuers could reuse the same platforms, and so that all the investors that wanted to test it could test that. Final words as a conclusion. Very often people, when a new technology is launched, people, well, don't really believe in the technology. Like 5 years ago, if you were talking about blockchain to people, they would say, okay, well, it will never happen, or it will happen in 20 years. And now that there is a groundbreaking transaction like the EIB transaction, people start to ask us, oh, okay, so the world is going to change tomorrow. No, the world is not going to change tomorrow because the EIB transaction is very much like the first email ever being sent. And that probably happened somewhere at the end of the 80s, at the beginning of the 90s. But between that time and the time when email became the main mean of communication, it probably took 20 years. And I think, well, I don't know if blockchain will take 20 years, but certainly it will take much longer to become mainstream than what people expect, because there are many obstacles, but we are working on that. Thanks very much for your time.
And thank you very much. And thank you to everyone that have participated in this workshop, and thank you to all that have been listening in. And I wish you a very nice rest of your day. Please download our report as well, and please go into our EIB website where you can find most of this information if you want more. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.